okay? Hi. Good morning. How are you? Oh my gosh. I swear to you, I almost didn't get here. I had no idea there would be 88,000 people all here today. But I'm actually really excited. I feel like I'm more with my people than I ever have before. You know, my job is up on the Hill or legislation or chemical companies and the barrage and the pushback, and I don't want to hear it, and what you see isn't real. And here with all of you, fighting for clean water, good products, better skincare, good food, clean air, everything that makes a difference in our lives are all emerged here today. So the energy and what you can do collectively, I want you to know, is ginormous and is in fact what it's going to take to change the game. So I'm very excited to be here with you. And of course I got stuck in the traffic. And they wouldn't let me through. I'm not kidding. I was literally having a panic attack. As I go, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to get in. So I was right in front of the hotel, and the officer said, no, you have to turn around, go back down there, go all the way down to Harbor Bowl. And I'm like, oh, hell to the no. I just shot to the left, came around through valet. Valet said, you have to leave. I'm like, oh, hell to the no. Hold over here to the side if I have to abandon my car. So anyway, I'm really, really happy to be here today and be with all of you, and thank you for what you do. You know, I bring speeches, I bring notes, I move away from them. I oftentimes don't use them because I just really want to kind of relate to you from my heart. We all think we're so different, and we're really not. We all are on the same page, and we all care about the health and the welfare of ourselves, our families, and our communities, and we want to do our work together. I find myself oftentimes overwhelmed, especially because of the film Erin Brokavich. So with that, let me say, hello, hi everyone, I'm Erin Brokavich, not Julia Roberts. I have to laugh. I can't believe it's been 18 years since the film came out, and that still has created such confusion for so many people. I mean, really, honestly, way back in the day when it first came out, I had a couple of kids stop and say, oh my gosh, I love your movie and I use your Thigh Master all the time. Right? I'm like, you sure you watched the movie? Because it's not about the Thigh Master, and I'm not Suzanne Summers, but that's okay. I have the strangest things happen to me. I mean, you know, even today, someone will see my ID and they're like, Erin Brokavich. I'm like, uh-huh. They go, is that the name of the film? Uh-huh. I'm her. You are? Because that's Julia. I laugh. I hear all day and share these kind of stories with you, but we don't have enough time. So I have learned a lot through working with communities, and how I got involved in Hinckley has a backstory, and I think it's really important, the backstory, and part of why I do. We'll never move forward and find the solutions that we're looking for if we aren't willing to take a look back here at what the problem is. So Hinckley, it's not that I stumbled upon it, and it took me quite a bit of time to figure out what was really happening. You know, it's pretty overwhelming, the work that I did. It's overwhelming what happened to the people in Hinckley. The lawsuit was overwhelming, let alone somebody comes along and makes a film about it. I didn't see that coming. It was a pretty big shock, but I'm glad that it happened because it gave us a platform to work from, to reach out to others. And that's one thing that's really, really important in the work that we do, is awareness. Information, community, and getting it out there so others know, because oftentimes they don't. So I was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm a Midwest girl. Is anybody here from Kansas? Oh, come on. Been there. Drove through there. But listen, it was a great place to grow up. I lived outdoors. I love the outdoors. I love the environment. I love the sunshine, the creeks. I used to work, shucking corn in the summer. It's the best way to make some money. And I just loved it. It was so freeing. One of the hard things for me growing up, and everything that I talk about, I want you to know I'm not talking about me. I'm telling you a story, and I want to share stories because it's about all of us and that commonality that we have, or why we won't get involved in something. And those are the things that I want to hit upon because I learned where it started with me was actually everybody else as well. So I loved my life growing up. It was fun, it was easy, it was happy. The only struggle I had in my life was I'm a dyslexic. So getting me through school was actually very, very difficult. The problem for me with the dyslexia wasn't that I had a learning disability. It was the judgment. It was the label. It was the perception. It was the box that everyone wanted me to fit into that bothered me so much. I was blessed to have two terrific women that helped me get through this. And one of them was my school teacher, Kathy Borseth. I'm the person that always knew everything in class. So I'm like, she'd ask a question. I'm like, I know. But every time I took a test, I failed it. One day, she said, I'm intrigued. I know you know, but when I give you a test, you don't pass. Is there something going on? I said, I don't know. I'm a learning disability. She was unfazed. She said, well, I'm not going to get stuck in this standard conformance of how anything is or isn't supposed to work for you. Obviously, you're learning, but you're doing it a different way. She said, so let me ask you a question. If I give you the test orally, can you pass it? I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So she scrambled it up. She said, I'm going to do it right now. Are you ready? She gave me the test, A+. She said, I'm not sure what's going on, but I see that something's going on. So let's not stay in this box and let's come out of it. She said, every single test I'm going to give to you orally. You don't have to do it in front of the class. As you leave at the end of the day, I'll pull you back in and we can do it privately. And she did. And not only did I get an A on every test, I got an A in the class. What her willingness to step out of a box did for me, first of all, for my GPA, oh, thank you, God. It helped a lot. But what she did for me, for my self-esteem, was incredible. I'll never forget that moment. And I still see today one of the most important issues, especially within the communities, is that self-esteem, that uncertainty that they've felt a suppression before, why they won't speak out and speak up. That's who I want to reach when I do my work. I hope that you all know I can't do this alone. I tell people, Superman's not coming. Listen, I feel terrible saying that to people, but it's the truth. But here's the hope. Guess what? Tag, you're it. You and you and you and me and all of us. We can no longer just expect that somebody's got our back. Superman's not coming. It will be up to us to rise up. So I see this in every community I'm involved in. And that's why for me to share with you is important about my dyslexia and where I've always gotten the mindset that I have. I don't like to be boxed in. No one does. I don't like to be labeled or judged or perceived. No one does. And I don't like to be suppressed. That really upsets me. And so I see that this is still happening today, more so than it happened when I was younger, and more than I've even seen it as to what happened compared to Hinckley, California. So be willing to come outside of that box. My mom, she was always my cheerleader. My mom was a journalist and a sociology major. And she too knew the value of saving, and especially our students and our youth, how they perceive themselves and that self-esteem that they have. So I'd always come home from school feeling dejected. I had another F or another D or another bad report card. And my mom would always tell me, Erin, you have to find your stick-to-itiveness. I talk about this everywhere I go. And I feel silly as a 58-year-old woman talking about stick-to-itiveness. But it is a very simple, powerful, and underused word. Definition: noun. Propensity to follow through in a determined manner. Dogged persistence born of obligation and stubbornness. That's all. Hello? That's all you had to say, Mom. Stubborn is my middle name. I am dogged. I am persistent. And this word meant something to me. This really became the little engine that could. Again, how silly as an adult that we even say that. I think I can, I think I can, I know I can, I know I can. You know, my mom also taught me life will require that you have stick-to-itiveness. My mom also taught me, Erin, even though you're different, doesn't mean you're inferior. That went right back to this, and it really bothered me. So my dyslexia and having two women in my life that helped me get out of that box to help keep that self-esteem intact is critical, and it is vital in your life and in your work. I had a father that ran around with my mom, who was one of my greatest mentors. My dad is interesting, and most people are often surprised about my father. He's a mechanical engineer, and he was an industry man. He ran the pipelines for Texaco. Yet he's the very man that taught me the value of clean water, good land, clean air, and good health. Those are the only thing that matters. He promised me in my lifetime, you will see water as a commodity. He's going to be right. And he said, I promise you one thing. This is the one thing worth fighting for. And as your mother said, get that stick-to-itiveness on because you're going to need it. And he was absolutely right. My dad was deeply concerned about the deceptions that he knew were happening. And he said that will be our downfall. I didn't get all of this then, but let me tell you, when I had my own family, my own children, I could clearly see the meaning of his message. And it's true for all of us. It's about our water, our land, our food, our air, our health. Those are the greatest gifts that we have. And due to a lot of mucking around, designed or just inept, not sure which it is, probably a little both, neither works for me, that we were going to have to really wake up and become involved. So I had my children, I began to understand what my father was telling me. And I went to work, as it showed in the film with Ed Masry. I had a car wreck. I was a single mom, and I needed a job. And so the files came to my desk on this unknown little town in Hinckley, California. The minute I got there, everything in my life and where I grew up and what I was taught was coming true. I could feel it. I could see it. The trees were dying. That's odd, I thought. People were sick. Person after person after person after person. I lived in LA. My neighborhood, not everybody was sick, but up here they were. I found that odd. I found it odd that I was looking at herds of cattle. I grew up with cows. My brother was a dairy farmer, and they're covered in tumors. You could feel the suppression. I could feel the secret. What the hell was going on out here? And you know, people were like, oh no, it's nothing, you know, we're told it's not anything to worry about. I mean, what just drove me crazy was I'm looking at a two-headed frog and I see green water coming out of the tap and they're like, oh, that's normal. Bullshit, that's not normal. But you see, nobody was willing to say anything. And this is going to go back to, again, what's so important about my message, is because we want to be told what you see isn't real. It isn't really happening. And all of these people, they didn't want to speak up for any more than I was there now, almost afraid to speak up, because we were told, hey, you're not a doctor, you're not a lawyer, you're not a scientist, what could you possibly know about this? And that's where I just lost my marbles. I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. I do not have to be any of that to tell you that two-headed frogs, green water, and a sick community is wrong. All I need to be is a human being and to tell you that's wrong. And that's where I came from. And this is my biggest concern, and what I want to share with everyone today is something that you can take away, because I see it, I know it. I work all across this country, because we're not this, or we're not that, or we didn't do this, or we didn't do that. Here we go. We're like, okay, maybe I shouldn't say anything. I don't want to say anything because everyone's going to say I'm crazy. When you speak up, people bully you, you tease you, they knock you, all of that. And we move away from it. And I want to give you that voice that's inside yourself, and I know you know it's in there, to go speak out. I got my fourth book coming in the fall, and it's I could not be more proud of this work. It's going to be called Water, and it's the truth of America's water supply. You're not going to like it. But we're going to teach you about the chemicals. We're going to teach you about right where this drives us, and that's called policy. But most importantly, it's going to weave you throughout these communities and what they've done. And here's the hope. It will be up to us, we the people, that can move the ball forward and change the game. I know it, especially if we can get inside of what I know exists in your heart and your being. So I'm really looking forward to that book coming out. So this is what happened and why everything, the perfect storm, came together for me in Hinckley, California. See, I wasn't alone in having a learning disability and having that judgment or suppression or that silence put upon me. It was this entire community as well. Everything my dad always said to me, this deception, what is going on? It became peeling back the layer of a huge company that hid the information. It became a shell game. Guess where you're going to find it? And so all of this became the perfect storm for me in Hinckley, California. I had no idea it would result into a film. I had no idea that at the time when I was doing my work in Hinckley and I went and put my finger in the dike that I was stopping a flood, I had no idea here in the future that I'd need 10 million fingers to run around and stop a whole bunch of floods. All because of cover-ups. And oftentimes that's precisely what's going on. So see, that power of stick-to-itiveness. Life's going to require that we all have it. One thing that I hope that you can take away is something that I've learned in communities that makes a big difference for them. I want you to have tools. So if I feel you've got that me in your voice, that's in your head, that's kind of scary though, right? Oh God, here comes Erin and her stick-to-itiveness. It's like my mother. But it will trigger you. It will activate you. Remember, dogged, determined nation, born of obligation and stubborn. I know you're determined. I know you're dogged. I know you're persistent. I know you're stubborn. And what I've learned that really makes a difference in communities, one, use your logic. I call them my 4 L's. So what is logic? Let's talk about that for a minute. It's a dressed up word for common sense. I use this skill everywhere I go, and it's never ever failed me. Okay. Think about it this way. I was born and raised in Lawrence, Kansas. I'm really familiar with tornadoes. So when the tornado sirens go off, I'm not calling the Weather Channel to ask if it's an F4 or an F5. I know to run. What if the headlines read, municipality tainted with rat poison? You know what rat poison is. It's a poison. I'm not going to call the National Institute of Health and ask if it's 0.02 parts per trillion or 10 parts per trillion, or is there a designated level that we should or shouldn't drink poison. I'm just not going to drink it. These are the things that come into play with communities every single time. This logic That's their common sense. And it's funny, if you use your common sense, you logically do the right thing. It's almost a self-protection mode. And Hinckley, common sense told me, I don't know, that two-headed frog, rainwater, I think that's kind of odd. That really happens. So when you think of logic, let that common sense kick in to gear for you. The other, logic, leverage. That's really important. And this is about embracing our communities again. As I said, I can't do this alone. None of us can do this alone. But collectively, we become a voice and a movement, and that's the game changer. That's precisely what changed the game in Hinckley, California. When we began to leverage ourselves and that community, 1 + 1 may equal 2. But you get into a community, 1 + 1 becomes 200, 500, 800, 900, 1,000, and so on. It makes a huge difference. They ignored us, 5 of us. They ignored 10 of us. 50, they're like, you're irritating. 100, they kind of like, what's going on over here? Leveraging your community is vital. Again, the best way for me to explain these is through stories of what's gone on that I've weaved myself in and out of. Leveraging yourself. There was a group of women that came to me years ago on a medical device. We couldn't do anything because of preemption. I'm often intrigued here because the FDA will require that you do a study before they introduce something into the marketplace. But we do it so ass backwards in the EPA, it's ridiculous. Let's just let 88,000 chemicals flood the marketplace. We're gonna run them through the system. We're gonna figure out how you're doing 20 years down the road when science catches up with the policy, which is actually what's starting to happen today. We gotta know what these things are and the damage they can or cannot do to the environment and public health and welfare way before we ever put them in the marketplace. So, and it's gonna be a fight. That's why I need you. I'm gonna do that. What was that old image, in the United States Army or something? I need you. I need you. And we're gonna need each other. But this group of ladies were like, the usual health of the no, I'm not gonna buy that. And they started to leverage themselves. Big time. 5,000, 10,000, 15,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 strong on their Facebook. They fundraised, they saved their monies, they went up on the hill, they went to every leader's door, they knocked, they had information, they showed up at the FDA, they stayed with it, they had stick-to-itiveness. 50,000 women. Guess what the outcome of that was? Bayer removing its product from the market. Their voice was heard. So I want you to know that being here today, like I said in the beginning, is so exciting for me. This collective voice means something. And I know we need to keep fighting. So I could share stories like that with you all day long. So we got logic, leverage, you get it. We got loyalty. We gotta be loyal to the cause. I found communities when they get together, if they don't hear or get what they need at first, they kind of, fall apart. Or they get too much of someone pushing on them and they can't do it. And they're like, I'm out. It's got to be loyalty to the cause. And I have seen community after community after community. They're in it for the long haul. If it takes them 1 year, 5 years, 7 years, 8 years, they will get there. So remember, you can do this even in your own business. And listen, some of the new businesses we start up that are these more green and less chemicals, there's a lot of this going on. Use your logic, that common sense, stay with it. Leverage yourself, leverage others in your community, even in your work. Stay loyal to the cause. And the last one, sometimes I put it in there, sometimes I don't, because here again, 58 years old, talking to a room full of educated, intelligent, hardworking, well-meaning, good people about stick-to-itiveness. And this one, the last one, logic, leverage, loyalty, what do you think it is? What motivates us every day? Absolutely. And I can't think of anything greater that sometimes we forget about. What is your why? Why are you getting up? Why are we doing this fight? Why are we creating something new? Why do we want to have less chemicals? It's born of love. Love of health, love of family, love for that child, love of environment, love of water, love of clean air, love of good food, love of country, love of freedom. It's all of that. It's that passion. So if you find yourself tired, remember why we're doing all of this in the first place. So Hinckley really taught me a lot. The film really opened up a lot. It gave us a larger platform. I continue to do all my work that I continued to do then today, but to, oh my gosh, a much larger scale. I actually find myself sometimes feeling very frightened, but I'll be very comforted when I get in this space here, because I know all of us are looking for the same thing. We've got to be solution-driven moving forward. Everything that we were and how we got here today may be all good and well, but if we don't shift tracks and start finding solutions, I'm telling you, when the water's gone and the air is suffocating us, it's game over for everybody. And at this moment, I'd like to say something here that just, I don't know, this isn't about politics. I do not care what side of the aisle you are on, how much money you do or don't have, or the color of your skin. Water, clean air, and safe food is for all human, all mankind. And that division, in my opinion, has no room in this field at all. It's all of us that need it. And without it, it's game over. So I get thousands and thousands of emails from 126 different countries and territory, mostly all about water, as I share with you in visual. So what I would do is a community member would write to me, and more often than not, it's moms. Hey, I'm a little concerned why there's so many children on the same street with, asthma. I'm concerned why we have 9 kids with glioblastoma. I'm concerned that 5 kids in the same school just got diagnosed with leukemia. So I will make note of that. Then I might run a query and unbeknownst to me realize, oh, it wasn't one person that wrote me, it was 5. So I began to plot some stuff on the map. So one thing that I want to share with you today is called Community Health Book. And let's start with this. Because I'm involved in chemicals and groundwater contamination, oftentimes I work with legislators. I'm up on the Hill. And one particular day, I was presenting my map, which I'd started maybe 7 years ago, maybe, and there was less than 300 people on it. But I was working with a young gentleman by the name of Trevor, and we now have a law called Trevor's Law, hence why I've started this map. But we were there testifying about issues like this that the senators were kind of baffled by. Well, we didn't know that was going on. And why are people reporting to you and not us? I'm like, they have. I don't know that you've heard them, but there seems to be a ginormous disconnect between our leaders and the leaders in our states and what they do or don't know or how we're communicating with each other. So I really amped this up after this meeting and before President Obama left office. He asked that the government create a national registry database. Now, what I find interesting is we don't have one. Most people think we do. But all of our national registry databases are within states. States can't share their information with others. So I'm worried we're not seeing the big picture. So this is Community Health Book, and the first thing I want to show you, oh, you know what? They gave me a clicker, right? Here's my clicker. So, can you see this? This is not my story. This is America's story. This is these communities' stories. Every single day, not one town, sometimes 5 towns, sends us photos. What's happening in my water? Brown water, black water, yellow water, green water, water full of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, ammonia, glyphosate, Roundup, it's all in here. And I find this really very disturbing because, see, again, I'm visual and I look at this and I'm like, what the hell is going on? So every day, and there's a whole host of reasons why this is going on. Some of it's well water, a great deal of it's coming from municipal water, but I assure you, this isn't happening in just Hinckley, California anymore. It's happening in almost everyone's water. And so I'm gonna go here, but when I do, I'm gonna have them bring it up, Community Health Book Live. Again, these are current reports coming in from people, mostly about water, but significantly what concerns me is their public health. Do we really know what's happening to communities that lie on top of 30,000 plus Superfund sites? Has anybody come back in to check their health and welfare? I'm not sure why we want to make such a disconnect from the environment, especially if we've polluted it with chemicals, and not think that it might have an adverse outcome on public health and welfare, the environment, the ecosystem, the wildlife, our oceans, and on and on and on. Because visually for me, when I start seeing this many reports, it concerns me that in fact that is happening. So this is just to show you on a daily basis the people that will come in. And you can take that one down now. We can take this map and flip it into a whole lot of different things. So look, I'm blind. On environmental issues. So red's water, air. We've been keeping a big eye on military. The largest national contaminant hitting the water supply today is PFOA, perfluoroalkyl acid. Took me a while to learn how to say that. My brain some days hurts. PFOS, the firefighting foam, CA8, I think you're all kind of familiar with it. It's becoming one of our biggest outbreaks. You know, I'm gonna stop right here for 1 second and kind of share with you how the system's working, because PFOA is the perfect story. The manufacturer of this chemical let the EPA know some 25 years ago, this is a bad actor. Keep your eye on it. So the EPA, who you know, like we have hundreds of, or 80-some thousand chemicals hitting the marketplace every single year, gets to look at a couple and then does study on them to see the impact to the environment and public health and welfare. So that's what they did with PFOA. These chemicals have long latency periods, so you could grow up in a location and move away and come down with the disease and nobody's really gonna know it or track it back to where you're from, and they can only do so much. So here goes the EPA, set off to study PFOA. They set a guideline, 400 parts per trillion. A guideline, not knowing what it does or doesn't do to you, but a guideline of 400 parts per trillion for municipalities to run through their system up to that point. Life goes on, right? Well, science caught up with policies. We're seeing more and more of that. EPA gets a phone call 2.5 years ago. Houston, we have a problem. This chemical causes testicular cancer, thyroid cancer, kidney cancer, excessively high cholesterol. It's quite the extensive list. Really? So you put something into the marketplace, and you run it through the system for all these years, and now you're gonna tell us it causes cancer. That's why I said we're doing it ass backwards, and we're gonna have to fight hard at a policy level to change how it is we're putting chemicals into the marketplace, and there's a big pushback on that one. So what the EPA does is they make an announcement. Everybody, we're gonna reduce it to 70 parts per trillion. Every municipality in America is going, are you kidding me? We don't have the budget. What are we supposed to do to reduce it to that level? In Alabama, they had 5 cities go down just because of one chemical. So this becomes a huge problem. And then guess what happens to me? Guess what happens to Community Health Book? Everybody in the community. Wait a minute, I live by that base. Wait a minute, I just got a notice from my municipality. Oh my gosh, is this why my son has testicular cancer? Is this why my wife died of kidney failure? Is this why I have thyroid disease? Is this why I have excessively high cholesterol? Boom! They just all come. Oh my gosh. We have got to figure out a better way to be handling issues like this because it's not working. So that's kind of an example of how everything works with every chemical that comes into the marketplace. We're finding out about it in our food. We're finding about it in our cosmetics and in all of our products. And I think it's really very concerning, and I think that we are at a shift in this country right now. And right here, today, being around all of you, that movement, that shift, it is actually not coming. It's already here. It is time for us to change. So this is PFOA. I can flip the map to heat sensors. Okay. This isn't my reporting. This is theirs. This is the people. This is a self-reporting map. By design, we have ways to figure out if somebody wants to come in and cheat the system and do stories 10 times or make it up. We're very protective of people's information. We understand and appreciate HIPAA. So what you see on the front is not what I see on the back end, and that information isn't shared. We're looking for the numbers. So what happens on the back end is just this. And this is the power to people and where the change can happen. So what the map begins to do is alert us to numbers. So because we don't monitor migratory pathways, I could live in Hinckley, California, and grow up on that hexavalent chromium site for 18 years, move away. Hexchrome has a long latency period. 5 years later, find out I have cancer. That information resides in the state where you live and is never shared with where you're from. So if hundreds migrate away and they come back, we can actually start seeing what the real numbers might be. In Fridley, Minnesota, big, huge, super fun site. There's no litigation. Senators, assemblymen, everybody, women, whoever's involved, legislatively isn't sure what to do. They're all on well water. Thank goodness for Facebook. What a platform that helped us open up and find our friends that had moved away or we went to high school with or who now live internationally. They created a Facebook page. Here's again that leverage. And they became 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 strong in no time. What we found interesting was, of those numbers, 900 of them who grew up in that exact town within a very close proximity, we're talking 2 miles, of the location, all had cancer. These are numbers we need to look at, and I don't want us to be afraid to look at them. This map is designed so I can see you, so we can mobilize to you, whether it be petition drives, whether it be door to door. Let's start looking at people who moved there, maybe who grew up there. Are we missing a number? Are we realizing that we think we're dealing with 15, but we could be dealing with 1,500? Because they have a place to report to. And this is what Trevor's Law was designed to do. We're hopeful that we can become that National Registry database. I would be more comfortable with independent source versus a government agency doing that, because I don't know that I always trust what they are or aren't going to share with us. But I'm deeply concerned, but the hope again is through this map, through people reporting, we can see you, we can find you, we can help organize you. And again, if you can't, I will. Whoever your senator, your leaders, your city council that's there, I'll call them 100 times a day. I'll show up, because we have to begin to bridge this community with our leaders and make this work. But it is happening. Sometimes I feel so bad that the news I share is daunting. You know, I am a person, I do have friends and a family, and I do go to parties. Inevitably, somebody will always ask me about water. Okay, water's not a soundbite. It's a story, it's complicated. I'm not even gonna get into it today. That's again why I'm so excited for my book to come out. But oh my gosh, by the end of the night, they're like, oh my gosh, don't bring her again. But I'm more inspired knowing. I feel more depressed when I don't. And so this map is a way for people to report where we can see you and where we can find you. So It just baffles my mind how much time has passed. I began my work in Hinckley, I was 31. I'm now 58, and I'm a grandmother of 4. I saw what happened in Hinckley, and through these years, oh my gosh, time's gone by so fast. I can't believe that we are still here today. I can't believe that everything I talked about, what I thought was so important in Hinckley, that I thought maybe had been corrected, is more relevant and more important today. It's 2019. We are better than this. And I'm going to say it again, and why I'm so excited to be somewhere like this today. Because it will be all of you that makes the change. Stick to it. Logic, common sense, leverage, loyalty. It's born of love, and boy, can we accomplish a lot. So I continue to do the same work I do today. It's just to such a much grander scale. And do not think that there are days I don't feel overwhelmed. I do. And a part of what I want to do today is pass that torch to you. I had the privilege of passing the Olympic torch. I was terrified the day it happened. I wasn't really sure where to go. I was antsy. There was the same way I felt when I got here today. I was like, oh my God, there's so many people. It was pretty overwhelming for me. And then it started to rain. And then I go to this place. Oh, please, the cameras are here and my mascara's running. Great. But I was really nervous. And so someone said, you need to start running. And so, I kind of started running. And they're like, okay, you can pick up the pace. And everyone's cheering you on. You're kind of thinking, okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And he's like, you need to turn around. They're going to pass the torch. And you're thinking, oh my God. I got my hand on that thing. It was like energy shot through me. I went, yes, I know where I'm going. And that's what will happen for you. Take that torch, grab it, because you will be empowered to move forward on the fight that you have for better environment, better products, better health, better water, better air, better food. I can't think of anything greater. So today I want to pass that torch. Superman's not coming. You're it. Grab it. Stop looking for a hero and become that hero. It's everywhere in this room today. Well, I definitely got my eye on this little clock here, and so I'm going to kind of close it up now, and I would like to answer a few questions, or I'm just happy to hang out with you. But I want to give you another takeaway, but I want to give you something I hope you'll think about. I'm fascinated with it. Okay, you've all heard of the film Wizard of Oz, right? Yeah? Okay, well, I'm from Kansas, so I can't help but think about the Wizard of Oz. Did you know there was a book before there was a film? Mm-hmm. Have you read it? Because it's great. It's written by L. Frank Baum. And what I'm fascinated about this story is he wrote the book at the pre-industrial height of the revolution, way back in the day, because he was concerned about his children. And he wanted to teach them the power of individualism and speaking for themselves in a world that was increasingly beginning to speak for them. That intrigued me. Sounds familiar. So as I started reading it, I've read it several times, and doing some research, I was fascinated with the political allegory and the meaning of Wizard of Oz. Look it up. It's fascinating. Best scholars around have concluded there is a political allegory. And I think we're there again. I think we're in that parallel moment. So, as we know, it starts with Dorothy, the American girl, right? Who just wanted to right a wrong. All of us want to do that, especially women and moms. We want to come fix it. We want to right a wrong. We're the American girl. On her way home, here comes a twister. That twister is a representation of disruption and chaos in D.C. I think that's kind of interesting. We can say what you want about anything. I'm not going to, but I'll tell you, we're in an era and a moment of disruption. Now, here's something about disruption. Everyone thinks that's bad. Everyone thinks that's scary. I think disruption's amazing. That's what's going to catapult us into better food, cleaner food, better products, everything that we're all here wanting to do today. I like disruption. It wakes us up. It gets us up off that couch. We're looking around going, hey, what's going on? So don't be afraid of disruption. So here we go in the story, and you know Dorothy in the House and the Twister, and she lands in Oz. And she lands on the Munchkins, who are a representation of mass citizens who were feeling suppressed. And they tell her, you gotta go see the wizard. Off she goes, you know the story. But the meaning behind it fascinates me. So she meets the Tin Man. He's a representation of industry workers who've lost their heart. Sound familiar? She meets the Scarecrow, the American farmer, who everyone thought had no brain because all the banks were buying up his land. Now look at our farmers today. She meets the Cowardly Lion, who happens to be L. Frank Baum's, a representation of his friend William Bryan's Jennings, who was running for president. Known for his fiery rhetoric, but had no courage. I don't know, I find that kind of interesting. So here we have Dorothy, the American girl. We have the farmer. We have industry worker. We have the politician. We have a representation of America. And they're told to go follow the yellow brick road. Go to that wizard, because he's got the answer. Superman's right there. The yellow brick road is a representation of the gold standard. Follow the path of money. So off they go on their journey. Follow the yellow brick road. You all know it. I'm not going to break out in this song and dance. That would be really embarrassing. But here comes this wicked witch. I never liked her, and I don't like her frickin' flying monkey. You know what they are? Suppression. I don't want you to know. They get put to sleep in the poppy fields. I'm wondering if that's where we've been. Did we get comfortable? Did we get complacent? Has there been a false sense of safety or illusion surrounding us? So they wake from their sleep, they get to the wizard, they pull back that curtain, and they just see a bunch of this going on. A lot of chaos, not a lot of anything. And here comes the good witch, because all they want to do is the right thing and find their way home. Here's the moral of the story, and it's where we're at right now today. They learned that they themselves always had a heart, always had the courage, and always had the brains to find their way home. That's what I see happening for all of us today. I want us to find that courage again, the logic, the leverage, the common sense, the loyalty, the love, that passion, your heart, that voice. You have a brain. We're about ready to shift gears here, and we will find our way home. That is the hope that keeps me up and going every single day. So just think about the Wizard of Oz a little. It's kind of fun, but did we get comfortable, complacent? Look at what's happening around us, and I hope you can feel very excited about it, because change is coming. So before I leave, I share with everyone RAM. Think of a ram. You know how strong they are to do and achieve by pushing obstacles out of one's way. But here's the thing. Sometimes the only person standing in your way is you. So RAM is about realization, assessment, and motivation. You gotta realize who you are and not be afraid of that. And realize, hey, I am in my own way, and how do I get out of my own way? That's why this self-esteem and the perception that you have of yourself is key. Realize the power you have, and don't be afraid to realize that you're flawed. I've actually learned that our flaws, our little hiccups in life that we think are going to be our downfall, are actually the greatest gifts to ourselves, because it's who we are. Don't be afraid to be that. Make an assessment of who you are. Assessments, we think, okay, what do I have in my portfolio, my stock, my bank account, the house, the car I drive? No. This is assessment and taking stock in who you are, not in what you have. These are key elements about what are our beliefs, what is our integrity, where do we stand on certain things. And oftentimes when we make an assessment of ourselves, We don't like to because we see things that we're like, I'm not good enough, or I can't do this. Here's that voice in your head. I know you all know it because she lives in my head all day long, and I'm constantly like, oh, go away, dear God, shut up. Really, and it's not away from you. We're influenced with negativity and constantly pushing back. So when you make an assessment, don't be afraid to look at some fault you have. Oh my gosh, failure is the greatest way to success I know how. I do not care if I fall on my face. I'm not perfect. I'm human. I'm flawed, but I'm willing to learn from it, and I'm willing to get up and get back into the game the next day. So take an assessment of things and what your skills are, what your strengths are, what your weaknesses might be. And here's the beauty. If you see something you don't like, you're gonna change it. You're gonna fix it. It's like buying a house. So hey, the assessment, the appraisal comes in low. What do? I don't know, maybe put in some new floors, remodel a bathroom, some changes, the value only goes up. Same thing happens with you. I find this interesting. We're so afraid to look at ourselves and dissect ourselves. But a butterfly must dissect itself first before it morphs into the butterfly. I find that amazing. And I find it amazing that we're afraid of it. Don't be. We're amazing, flaws and all. And last, and here's where I close out, is our motivation. We know motivation is important. And I know that every one of us can lose our mojo. Oh my gosh, this world is spinning faster and my brain just wants to implode. I feel like my computer, with all the data that comes in and that little blue thing starts going like this. It's crazy. There's less and less time to do the things we enjoy. We're going at a faster and faster pace. It feels like sometimes we're spinning out of control. There's a key, a trick to motivation, and that's this moment of self-renewal. That's where I want us all to go, because see, the answers lie right in here with us. And that self-renewal is that moment when you stop, oh my gosh, and breathe. That self-renewal, that moment is our environment. It's the sunshine on our face. It's the smell of fresh air, fresh cut grass, the sand in our toes, walking along the beach, the waves crashing, going for a hike, hearing the babbling of brooks, the chirping of the birds, go to a park and hear the laughter of a child that plays. All of this wonderful environment is surrounding us every single day. And it can inspire us. It will motivate us. It gives us that mojo to move forward in tomorrow if we will just stop long enough to breathe it all in so we can come out tomorrow and fight for it. Listen, there will always be days that we will feel like we were at the bottom. Tap into yourself. You will find that there is no obstacle you cannot surmount, and there is no fear you cannot overcome, no matter how impossible it may seem. I am banking here today, and I am passing that torch, and I hope you take away some tools, and you probably already know a lot of them, but don't you ever stop for 1 minute believing in yourself or fighting for this environment, because we are all connected, and this collective community will take us into a new world and a legacy that I sure as hell feel a lot better leaving to my grandchildren and for all of yours. So thank you so much for being here today. Keep up your fight. It's been a pleasure.